I travel a lot, both for work and leisure. I earn mainly from my training sessions, my workshops, and the diversity training I do. And all of the decisions I make regarding my travel and all the things I do in my life are majorly taken by myself. And I want to ask you, did you relate to how I described myself? Do you travel? Do you work? Do you take decisions regarding how your life should evolve by yourself? Maybe you decided to switch careers and leave your bank job for a content management role. Or maybe you decided, like me, to set out on solo travel for 6 months exploring the country. In case you related to any of the questions or you have the answers yes to the questions I posed, congratulations. You are empowered. So am I. By definition, empowerment refers to the degree of freedom a person has to act in their interests while in their own authority. Nerdy, right? In simpler words, empowerment refers to enabling someone to do something. And when the discussion becomes about women's empowerment, it gets categorized into broadly 3 categories: economic empowerment, political, and cultural empowerment. So if I have rights to work and choose how I support myself, I'm economically empowered. If I have rights to vote and dissent in a public structure, I'm politically empowered. And if I have freedom to accept or deny cultural values and traditions, I'm culturally empowered. You get the gist. We are all empowered. Why? Because most of us work. Most of us have rights to vote and free speech. We also have rights to choose which cultural and traditional norms we want to accept, or at least we can influence them. But when the discussion happens about women's empowerment, did you notice a challenge with this? Did you notice in all these scenarios how the responsibility of everything lies on me? If I can work, if I can choose, if I can do X, Y, Z. But does the outcome of this situation also depend on me? No. Let me demonstrate. What happened? I listened to my own advice and set out on a solo travel experience. I was in Varanasi this one time, and while waiting for my friend in evening, the desk receptionist confidently remarked on me being a sex worker. Why? Because I was traveling alone. Because I have tattoos. Because I have piercings. And because I had no male counterpart with me. But before you think, or before you start thinking that I was one-off incident, let me ask you to take a pause. I was so disturbed by this event that I set out on asking solo female travelers whether their experiences were also similar. I met over 100 women who were listening to themselves traveling alone. And they told me the most nerve-chilling experiences of harassment in travel. So I knew that I wasn't the only one. But if I wasn't the only one, and harassment of all these solo women travelers was happening in a pattern, doesn't it also mean that we were punishing these women for an act of empowerment? Doesn't it also mean that I was punished for being empowered when someone decided to call me a sex worker? And if you look at the statistics in travel and tourism industry, it's not surprising, and it actually supports the claim I'm making standing here. Travel and tourism industry is world's largest industry that contributes to women's economic empowerment. In countries like Nepal and Cambodia, more than 60% of tourism entrepreneurs are women. But these are also the countries which report highest number of domestic violence and hatred. Research shows that in these countries, women often don't have rights to use their own money. Another statistic about women who travel for work, the educated women. Globally, it is shown that women are more likely to travel for work than men. And the number today stands at 258 million women who travel globally for work. And these traveling women contribute more than $601 billion in financial remittances, money they send back home. But these are also the women, these educated, smart women are also the ones who have less likely to find partners. They report higher divorces. And if they decide to rise up in the career ladder, they are forced to opt out of motherhood. So, on one hand, we want our women to be empowered. We want them to be educated. We want them to rise up in career ladders. We want them to be empowered. But on the other hand, we are punishing them for it. And why does that happen? Where is the hole in the loop? Who's at the fault? Through my own research and conversations, I think it happens because of what I like to call the bubble hypothesis. Here, the hypothesis refers that the outcome of a situation which I am in depends on how empowered I am. So if I am empowered enough, if I am strong enough, I won't have bad outcomes. And if I'm having bad outcomes, I'm not empowered enough. In my case, it is common to assume that if I would have been empowered enough, I would not have been harassed. And this leads to women's double bind at work. Research shows that women are less likely to report their cases of sexual harassment at work. You know why? Because they are more likely to be fired after that complaint, which leads to double punishment. In corporate workplaces, we want the leaders to be confident, assertive, and commanding. But when women become assertive, commanding, they are called bossy. They are called bitchy. And you know what all this double bind leads to? This leads to women being less valued for being feminine and being punished for being masculine. And behind all of this discussion of empowerment, there is this basic challenge that we have failed to notice. We have been talking about women's empowerment. We have been talking about manifestos, guides, steps, policies, guidelines on how to empower women. But we forgot to talk about preparing a conducive environment for these women who became empowered. So Prachi, what now? How do we get out of this loop of empowerment, punishment, empowerment? Or how do we prepare the environment for these empowered women? Do we have a solution? Yes. I have a good news and a bad news. The good news is we have a solution. The bad news is the solution requires a lot of work. We'll stick with the good news first. So the questions right now we are working with: how do we work with empowered women? How do we create spaces for them? And how do we not put them in a closed pipeline where they become empowered and get punished later? The answer is diversity training. Diversity training is a specialized training which helps people become more aware of their differences, work along those differences, and manage the challenges that come along it. And so basically, does it work? In short, yes, if we take care of the basic requirements. What are the basic requirements? The first and the foremost is to get a diversity trainer to deliver the training. I know it sounds as simple as putting oregano on a pizza, but it's not. Trust me, it is not. Most of the organizations I have come across do not invest well in their diversity training sessions. They think that their HR department can take care of it, deliver 5 modules, which probably they copied from the internet. And I can't tell you how many times people have asked me what is the difference between a diversity trainer and a trainer organizations have in-house. And I like to bring the inference from medicine here. It is very similar to going to a general physician and a dentist. If you have a teeth problem, you'll probably go to a dentist and not think that general physician is also a doctor and he can take care of it. He probably won't. Talking about medicine, the second requirement for diversity training is to have proper diagnostic. Not knowing what problem we are addressing can be equally, if not more, harmful than not having the solution at all. And the third requirement of diversity training is, again, like going to a doctor. You're more likely to stay healthy if you invest in your annual checkups than going to a doctor only when it is hurting. It's similar with diversity training. If you want better effectiveness of diversity training, it is useful to have it more regularly rather than being a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and making it a one-stop destination for all our inclusion problems. So now, the basic question, which should come along with the solution. Does it work? Short and sweet answer again, yes. Long answer is that I have been experimenting with diversity training in a lot of different scenarios, and I have found that it works. Last year, I was invited to speak and train at India's largest hotel management institute, and I found that after the training, students who were feeling marginalized felt more comfortable. Students who were complaining that they were feeling not enough, not belonged, or they thought they don't have a space in society, told after the diversity training that they felt more comfortable, they felt belonged. This is a feedback I received after the training session, and it talks exactly about how I mentioned the student felt more seen, more visible. So diversity training is proven to keep the boundaries enforced. Research from medicine and nursing, which are high contact industries, also show the same. When patients were complaining that their doctors are resorting to prejudices and stereotypes while examining and giving medicines, and were probably not listening enough, reported that after the diversity training, the doctors were more empathetic and better listeners. In corporate workplaces, women who were struggling to find spaces, women who were continuously bombarded with questions like, when are you getting married? Whom are you dating? When are you having a child? Are you taking a maternity leave? All these intrusive questions felt that their boundaries were better kept sure after the diversity training. Men at those workplaces were more likely to be aware, sincere, and empathetic towards women's challenges after doing some of the activities from my training sessions. So we know now that diversity training helps women remove or reduce the punishment associated with their empowerment. It helps them create boundaries and keep them. But what can people like me and you do if we are not involved in diversity training? Is there any other way to create space for empowered women? Yes, there is. So, is there any more way? Yes. And that way is to be kind to them when they fall down. We women are more likely to be judged harshly if we fall down, if we make mistakes, and Lord forbid us if we call ourselves empowered. As if being empowered means trading for all the opportunities of falling down, making mistakes, and learning. As if being empowered leads to a life where everything is perfect and things are served on a gold platter with a rosé in it. As if being empowered means I'm perfect and I don't have any opportunity of making mistakes because I am, after all, empowered. No. Being empowered does not mean I won't make mistakes. Being empowered does not mean I will not fall down. Being empowered does not mean I'm perfect. You know what being empowered means? It means I will fall down, but I will know how to ask for help. Being empowered means that I will make mistakes, but once because I learn from them and probably make better mistakes. Being empowered means I'm far from perfect, and I know it. So I'm telling all of you, especially the women, be kind to yourself when you fall down. Be kind to other women when they fall down. You know why? Because we women, especially in Asia, are taught to be immediately self-critical when we make mistakes. It must have been me. I must have done something. I was the reason. No. Sometimes situations are outside your control, and be kind to yourself for making mistakes. So now that we know 2 ways of creating spaces for empowered women, I want to leave you with one question. Are we investing in diversity training regularly, or are we going when it is hurting? In other words, are we investing in our regular checkups, or are we going when it is hurting? Thank you.